Who can forget the time Tom Brady's fumble call led to a brand new rule in the NFL? Or the time the Seattle Seahawks received penalty after penalty in a Super Bowl game against the Steelers? The NFL has seen its fair share of controversial calls over the years. These are all the times referees ruined the NFL. Starting with the Dez Bryant catch. This unforgettable moment went down in the 2014 NFC Divisional Round clash between the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. To this day, people are still debating the details of the referee call, almost a decade after the game. Dallas was trailing by 5 in the game, leading to a 4th and 2 gamble with about 4 minutes left on the clock. They decided to target Dez Bryant down the far sideline, and the throw gave us a good look. Was it caught or was it not? Dez secured the ball, putting the Cowboys on the 1-yard line. But hold on, upon review, his catch was ruled incomplete as Dez bobbled it, with a bit of movement as he hit the ground. There are roughly 12 different angles of the play, and the debate rages on from every perspective. In the end, the call was overturned, and the Cowboys ended up losing the game. Safe to say, the team and Dez himself weren't exactly thrilled about it. But it's not the first time the refs have messed up this badly. Just look at the failed Mary incident of 2012. It was a Monday Night Football game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. And with just seconds left in the game, Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson threw a desperate pass into the end zone. He was hoping for a stroke of luck, and while the Seahawks receiver Golden Tate did catch the pass, so did Packers defender M.D. Jennings. But instead of ruling it an interception by Jennings, the referees on the field called it a touchdown for the Seahawks, a decision that was heavily criticized by fans and analysts. The failed Mary incident made headlines all over the world. It got to a point where the NFL had to put out a statement admitting that the call was wrong. In the aftermath of the game, the NFL and the referees union even entered into a labor dispute. The league ultimately used replacement referees for the season's first 3 weeks. While the replacement referees were widely criticized for their lack of experience and inconsistent calls, this was seen as a turning point in the labor dispute, as it highlighted the need for experienced and competent officials in the field. As for the referees officiating the match itself, they faced no punishment for their mistakes. The Packers lost the game they should have won, and the NFL's PR department was working overtime to manage the damage. Now, Tom Brady's no stranger to controversial foul calls, but let's rewind to the tuck rule, a call that is unforgettable in NFL history. With less than 2 minutes left trailing in the snowy game, Brady got hit on a cornerback blitz by the legendary Charles Woodson, knocking the ball loose. Instead of calling it a fumble, enter the tuck rule, which claimed Brady's arm was going forward, even though he started tugging the ball before it got knocked loose. The Patriots went on to win the divisional round game in overtime, and commentators back then predicted this call would be talked about for ages, and they were spot on. That game was in 2001. And here we are, still buzzing about it today as one of the most captivating calls in NFL history. Brady's even cracked jokes a few times, admitting that it might have been a fumble, but hey, too little, too late. This wasn't even the first time. Brady just couldn't catch a break with questionable referee calls. Let's zoom ahead to the 2017-2018 season and, once again, the AFC Championship game. The Patriots found themselves trailing 20-10, and a crazy trick play unfolded, resulting in a solid gain down the sideline, hinting at potential points in the drive. Enter Jaguars linebacker Miles Jack, who snagged the ball away from Dion Lewis, sealing the win for Jacksonville. Now, Jax had a clear run to the end zone, but referees intervened and whistled the play dead. sending Miles Jack into a fit of fury on the field. Sure, it was ruled a first down for Jacksonville, but the touchdown was snatched away by calling the play dead. Without that call, the Jags were likely Super Bowl bound with Blake Bortles. But even with so much importance put on training referees properly, it's a shame that in 2019 we saw another major bad call. It went down in the NFC Championship game between the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams, with just 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and the game tied at 20-20. Saints quarterback Drew Brees threw a pass to receiver Tommy Lee Lewis, but he ended up being tackled by Rams defensive back nickel Robbie Coleman before the ball even got to him. Normally, this would have had refs ready to call a pass interference within seconds, but with so much on the line, they decided to ignore it altogether. Of course, that resulted in outrage from both the Saints fans and the players. Many called for changes to the NFL's replay system to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. And while the organization did eventually acknowledge the mistake and punish the referee responsible for the call, the damage had already been done. The Saints had lost a chance to play in the Super Bowl, and the referee won a one-way ticket to the minor leagues. And if you thought that was bad, watch how referees can play super unfairly sometimes. The rivalry between the Steelers and the Seahawks got way worse with this next bad call. Super Bowl 40 threw the Steelers right back into the thick of a call controversy, but this time, they were on the favorable side, leaving Seahawks fans fuming. The Seahawks, fueled by rage from the calls in that game, have been booing referees for years. Seattle had a touchdown yanked away due to an offensive pass interference call, and trust me, it is one of the mildest push-offs you've ever seen. The kind of call that had no business being made in a game of that scale. But wait, there's more. Ben Roethlisberger then marched the Steelers down the field, attempted a quarterback sneak, and voila, it was ruled a touchdown, though it sure seemed short. Seattle was pissed once again, feeling like they were battling not just Pittsburgh, but also the officials. And add to the drama, there was also a missed offside call on the Steelers' defense, magically turning into a holding call on the offense. This wiped out a completed pass, sending Seattle back from the 2-yard line in the fourth quarter. Long story short, Seattle lost the game and still carried that sense of being robbed. Steelers fans, on the other hand, swore up and down that those penalties had zero impact on the outcome. But get this, reports revealed that official Bill Levy admitted a few years later that his crew did the Seahawks dirty, and he felt pretty awful about it. Bitterness between Seahawks and Steelers fans over that game's outcome? Still very much alive. The thing is, though, bad referees have always been a good receiver's worst nightmare, just like in Calvin Johnson's case in 2010. It was so messy, it resulted in a new rule being named after the player. The Detroit Lions were playing against the Chicago Bears when their receiver Calvin caught a pass in the end zone. It was a brilliant catch, and naturally, he wanted to celebrate with his teammates. So he put the ball down as they rushed over to him. But the referees didn't like that at all, and instead ruled that Johnson had maintained possession of the ball throughout the entire catch. And, well, the play was ruled incomplete. It's like they were watching a different play than the rest of the stadium, because everyone else saw how clean that catch was. But they stuck to their decision. This call was widely criticized on social media, as fans argued that Johnson had caught the ball and had taken enough steps to establish himself as a runner before setting the ball down. The controversy surrounding the call eventually led to a change in the NFL rules, which eliminated the requirement for a receiver to maintain possession of the ball throughout the entire catch process. You can imagine everyone's surprise when Jesse James' catch controversy happened in 2017. And just like it was 7 years ago, the refs claimed there was an issue with the ball possession. The Pittsburgh Steelers were clashing with the New England Patriots when the Steelers' tight end Jesse caught a pass in the end zone. It was an intense moment with just seconds remaining in the game. But instead of the players cracking under the pressure, it was the referees. They ruled that he didn't maintain possession of the ball throughout the entire catch process. Yeah, right. And it left the fans feeling more confused than angry. The NFL's controversial catch rules were called into question. Many people even claimed the refs were finding loopholes because of how vague they were. In the aftermath of the incident, the NFL acknowledged that the rule needed to be clarified and revised. The league ended up changing the rule in 2018 to allow more flexibility, but the referees never faced any official punishments for their mistakes. But if you think they should've, make sure to like this video and hit that floating subscribe button for more content like this. Seattle's tough break in the Super Bowl wasn't the only example of questionable calls. Take Super Bowl 57, Philly versus Kansas City for instance. Sure, there were already some strange calls in the game, but the real kicker came with a holding call that sealed the fate of the match. Now, was it holding? Well, you could argue yes, but it was one of the mildest holding calls ever seen. As even James Bradbury himself admitted, everyone was arguing over whether referees should even be the ones deciding the outcome of such a tight and otherwise fantastic Super Bowl. So the holding call gifted the Chiefs a first down with just 90 seconds left on the clock, and the game knotted at 35 each. Then Mahomes hurled a pass that was way beyond Juju Smith-Schuster's grasp, making a strong case for an uncatchable ball. But surprise, surprise, the holding call stuck and the Chiefs ran out of the clock, securing the win with a field goal. Announcers chimed in, emphasizing that on this grand stage, at that precise moment, you just can't make that call. And guess what? Pretty much everyone worldwide, except Chief fans, tends to agree. But this next bad call was so unexpected that it led to another rule being put in place. You'd think that something as simple as a coin toss would be foolproof, right? Wrong. Back in 1998 on Thanksgiving, things got wild during a game between the Detroit Lions and Pittsburgh Steelers, tied at 16 points each. The Steelers managed a late field goal, pushing the game into overtime. Jerome Bettis stepped up to referee Phil Luckett at the 50-yard line. Here's the deal. The Steelers had to call heads or tails to decide possession. Sounds simple, right? Well, not quite. Did Bettis say heads or tails? Luckett heard heads, but the coin landed on tails, giving possession to the Lions. Bettis looked confused, insisting he called tails. The Lions ended up scoring a touchdown on the opening drive, winning the game. Bettis even jokes that Coach Cowher fired him from coin toss duties. That's why players now use signs and shout heads to avoid confusion. And the league made it official. And well, there you have it. Those were some of the worst referee calls in NFL history.